You just got to think about it like the first time you got laid. You just got to think to yourself, Daddy, are you sure this is right?
Yes! Yes! Thank you, Taker reference. I love that movie. I love that movie so much.
Welcome to
You
Geek
have, you have
Boots.
I
to,
actually,
you have to, like, you have to look up.
actually, last year I got to meet Lori Petty at
Are
a
you
con,
serious?
and it was I, I, I love her to death, but she looks rough now. I mean, she's still such a sweetheart.
So, welcome to Geek Boots, and I would love to do a big green weenie joke, but that was too fucking hilarious. So I'm gonna keep that. Tonight is the night, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, Endgame. Woo!
Yay!
Oh man, it has been a long road, a long haul. I enjoyed every bit of it. They were really good episodes. I got my cast. I hope they had fun doing it. I mean, I like to do it for Star Wars, but if this was exhausting, then no, fuck that. We're never doing it again.
It was amazing.
Yay. So we will be talking, each one of us will be sharing our small thoughts, doing a spoiler-free review, and then the rest of the episode, we're going to go very in-depth about Endgame. So if you haven't watched it, you get to at least listen to us joke around for a few minutes. After that, we'll give you a 10
Get
second
out.
to get the fuck out of our faces because we will die.
Take
So
that time to go see Endgame.
right,
Seriously.
Yes.
You haven't
Yes.
seen it yet. We'll tell you to leave the room, and then you take your ass to the theater and go see it.
yeah.
Right now.
So tonight, I'm actually going to start this bad boy off with Single Dad. Single Dad, you know your script, how you're handling it. So why don't you go ahead and start this bad boy off?
Do I? Because I mean, some of the questions that we have for the group are things that we can't discuss.
Spoiler free. Spoiler free is
Hold on.
scale of. Okay.
Hold on, I got to do this first. Ah.
Stuff is happening.
Nobody can see because he's frozen.
Well,
Yeah, I can't see anything.
Not only
Oh, I see blue.
Oh, okay. Now I see a onesie. All right.
Yes.
I'm hearing. Yeah. As he's frozen.
Yay, he's so cute.
Ladies and gentlemen, that cosplay has put on a onesie. Horrible.
I need my boo.
I need you. Yeah,
I need.
I'm
my
right here, babe.
Ah! You're in a foreign
Jake-
country right now.
God damn it, J4, stop cheating on me.
We can share splitsies.
Okay,
Hey. This is America's ass.
Might have
So,
For everyone.
So let's go ahead and kick this off.
scale
why-
of 10.
Okay, scale of 1 to 10. I definitely gonna say like 9.5, 9.7. You couldn't. There was a few minor things like personally that I think could have been better, but overall, for wrapping up the 22 movies in 11 years, everything, the way everything went down was, I think, the way it had to go down. I absolutely love this movie. I wanted to go see it again, but I think I'm having the same problem that you are, is finding a theater that isn't sold out even in the middle of the day. And so everybody's flocking to go see it. Now, yeah, how it stacks up for the rest of the MCU, like I said, I mean, it wraps everything up. It is the capstone. It really, I know it's not the last movie in this phase of the MCU. There's one more coming out.
Yeah,
But,
thanks, Sony.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sony.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can deal with that. But as for a capstone for how they started the MCU and everything like that, and like this big vision and that nobody thought was gonna come together, they really did a great job bringing it together beautifully. Favorite character? I was watching the other day and looking at like all the individual screen times and everything like that of all the individual characters in the movie. I think personally, I've got to say it's going to be a toss up between Ronan, who they don't use his name, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. I love their dynamic during the movie. That for me. That was like battle buddies. So, some of the scenes that they were in, and I'll talk about it more later in the spoiler review. But some of the scenes that they were in together, just it really hit home for me. So yeah, I love the comedic section of the movie. I've got more cosplans thanks to this movie. I think
Yes.
everybody does. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right. Why don't we switch gears and throw it over to Mayan Goddess now? Mayan Goddess, why don't you go ahead?
Well, so for me, since we're doing changes for our segments, hold up, let me put this back on. Everybody else in the group got to see it already, but just in case. Okay, so I'm so excited about this. Okay, so for me, like,
Hold on, pause real fast. So, for the listeners, the reason why she may sound slightly muffled is because she officially just got a wasp helmet in the mail, and she officially put it on to geek out. So, she's wasping it out right now for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and yeah, it's adorable. Continue.
thank you. Okay, so for me, I wouldn't put it at like a 9 or a 10. I would say 7 or 8. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I very much enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. The action scenes are great. The dynamic between characters was really great. I appreciated that very much. I personally, if I had to compare, I liked Infinity War a little more, just because of the impact it had on the audience. Overall, I really like how they ended it. There were some things that, like, if I was going to be nitpicky, yeah, I'll save it for the spoiler review and stuff like that. But, like, for me, overall, I appreciated it. Was it my favorite Marvel movie, period? No, but it was a great way to end this saga that they had created. And it was really, like, it's like they tied it up with a bow. And so I very much appreciated that. Overall, I would say, like, I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10. My favorite character, I gotta go with Captain. Just like the way that arc went for me, that was it. It had the happiest ending for me as a viewer. Not saying like it was a good ending or a bad ending, but like for me, I appreciated the direction that they went, and that was the direction that they should have gone with that particular character. Favorite scene, I'll save that for the spoiler because there's
She just came.
Yeah.
All right. Ah. My hands are sweaty, so it won't unlock my phone.
Mom spaghetti.
Mom spaghetti, yeah.
Spaghetti. We're gonna
Okay,
sleep.
I'm gonna take this off because I just
Yeah.
wanted to have that for that one moment because I'm very happy about this thing. Okay.
Now we're gonna shift gears to the sleeping man over here, J4. Why don't you go ahead, boss?
That man is happy to be alive.
Grumpy
Right?
bear.
Yeah. Hold on, let me pull up. Scale of 1 to 10. I'd probably give it a 7.5 or an 8. I love the movie. It was fun to watch. I had to go watch it a second time, which luckily was pretty easy for me because everyone here went and saw it opening night or the night after that. So Sunday there was like nobody in the theater. It was pretty awesome. How it stacks up against the rest of the MCU. I really liked. I liked for the most part how the movie ended, but there was still some things that I had some issues with. The direction that they went with certain character arcs just didn't quite make sense to me. Given the way that their previous arcs had previous movies had played out, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. But it was still a good movie. Favorite character, jeez. I'm with Russ on this one, singled out on this one, and it definitely Barton was my favorite character, just because his arc made the most sense.
Yeah.
Where they went with his character made the most sense. The emotion that he showed throughout the movie made sense. And I just like Barton. He's an interesting character. So yeah, everything else is spoilers. So I'm down.
Cosplay Jenemy, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with the. It was a good solid 8. There was a few things that are very questionable. That didn't really satisfy me. I really enjoyed it though. Don't get me wrong. I really did enjoy the movie. I had a good time at the theater, thinking about it later and how long and how much work they put into everything else. I feel like they could have done some things different, but those will go into the spoiler. Favorite characters, of course, Natasha is always going to be up there for me in no matter what she does. And then, yeah, her dynamic was amazing. I do think that if a psychologist watched the movie, they could probably figure out all different signs of where people were. And so I thought that was really neat how everybody kind of handled things differently. And then, of course, and then Wanda also, she kind of loved. But everything else.
I feel like
that might be a spoiler, though, because you might have to edit that one out.
I love that the vibe for the most part on this episode right now is still like we just all got done watching Endgame again, and we're emotionally taxed by it. And then to those of us that watched Game of Thrones, of course, over the weekend, that was an hour and a half of just sitting at the edge of your seat.
It was
emotionally taxed, just because in that spoiler alert, although I really truly feel like everybody who ever fucking watched that episode, the second they were done watching it, post about it on Facebook. Unlike anybody who watches Endgame is like, hey, don't spoil the fucking movie. But everybody who watched Game of Thrones is like, holy shit, Arya Stark. And I'm like, what about people who don't have HBO, you dick? Anyway, I'm going to continue. The way they filmed it, you are sitting there at the edge of your seat not knowing who's going to survive because it's dark, and you're just going, oh my god, all these characters I have emotional investment in. I don't know if they're going to live or die the entire time.
And all the cut scenes and everything like that. They keep going to different people, and it's like, wait, is this going to be it? Is this it for them?
Yeah, seriously. So, to the listeners, the reason why we've got some certain level of energy is because I really feel like there's been a lot of high emotion for about a week, and we're all like...
I will say this. As far as geekdom is concerned, no matter, like, for many, many people who are into many, many different genres of stuff, whether it was video games, whether it was Marvel, whether it was Game of Thrones, this week was insane. Seriously. And, like, I kind of feel bad that we're only talking about Endgame because, like, holy crap, there was so much that happened this week, and it's been amazing.
Yes.
As far as Game of Thrones and the spoilers, here's the thing that I've noticed. With Endgame, there was so much stuff about, like, hashtag don't spoil the Endgame, this, that, and the other, like, no spoilers. We didn't have that same thing for Game of Thrones. People were like, okay, we're going to watch it. If you're a fan, cool. If you're not a fan, that's fine. We're going to talk about it anyway. Like, there wasn't that much of a of a like, don't tell everybody. Like, and from the looks of it, like the Game of Thrones producers weren't throwing a big shtick about it either. So
Yeah.
like
Actually.
that's why it's okay for spoilers to come out for that, relatively speaking.
But now it is my turn now to do spoiler-free review. I'm going to honestly say 10 out of 10. I'm going to go right out the gate and say I fucking loved this movie so much. I would even go as far to say that hold on.
Bless you.
Best movie of the year, best movie of the franchise, and probably the best comic book film ever made is where I'm going with this, in my honest opinion. Of course, there's more comic book movies to come out of the gates at some point, but I've been invested with Marvel, like everybody who's listening, for the long time. So to watch this movie and the way they did it, it's the Endgame. A lot of things are being tied up in a bow, and they honestly made that bow very beautiful, in my honest opinion.
A very pretty bow.
And I will say, I will say, I was doing something actually as an event that led up to the movie. I was invited to come out with a group of friends. We all dressed up and we put on kind of a show for the fans, for a private screening for either Dell employees or Facebook employees, one of the two. I was unclear. I didn't care because there were a lot of fans who were thoroughly enjoying it. Tons of kids who saw all these guys in costume and were like, "Oh my God, it's the real deal! Blah blah blah. They're here. This is so cool!" And they wanted to get our photos, and it was great. I dressed up like Captain America, full thing without the helmet. Of course, the helmet wasn't ready, and it was just a blast from start to finish. It was fantastic. I enjoyed myself. And then, so it's at Seattle Cinerama, and it's kind of like an old, or not an old, but just a play as a whole when people are doing like opera or whatever. When the front doors, the movie starts, aka the trailers start, they lock the doors because there's one screen and it's gigantic. There's even a top second floor
Balcony.
section, a balcony.
Mezzanine.
So I was sitting there hanging out for a little bit, not realizing the trailers had already started. So by the time I actually got down and sat in my seat, the movie started. And I didn't realize. I was like, oh, okay. But I knew the movie was starting, and yet some a-hole, if he ever bothers to listen to this podcast, you are an a-hole, good sir. He was not on his phone taking photos. He was just on his phone checking his apps. The movie was going, and I'm sitting here going, seriously? So I'm dressed as Captain America, sitting in my seat, and I go, seriously, dude, get off your phone. Loud enough for him to hear. Because I know it was loud enough for him to hear, because the guy dressed up like Drax the Destroyer to my left, and the guy dressed up as Iron Man up ahead of me, one seat, both heard me clear as day and chuckled. So I was like, there's no way this mother trucker didn't hear me. But that's neither here nor there. The movie was fantastic. How it stacks up to the rest of the MCU, I think I already answered that. It's the best movie. It's the best comic book movie, best movie of the year. It's amazing. It's fantastic. As Single Dad stated, a lot of showings are sold out, and I want to be able to go see it more times because I would easily spend a lot of times watching this movie over and over and over again. It was fantastic. Just so good. Favorite characters? Yeah, I'm going with Captain America. Maybe it's just my love for Captain America as a whole, but his storyline, things that happened to him in this movie, are the reason why I love him the most out of this whole movie. So that's my spoiler-free review. If you haven't seen it, get your tickets, see it somehow, and I pray to God that nobody ever spoils this movie for you. Also, I'd like to do a safety reminder. I'm going to sound a lot like Captain America right now, but just a reminder, as important and as impactful as this movie may seem, It is just a movie. If somebody is being an asshole and trying to spoil it on purpose, does not incite a reason to go for violence. And my logical statement behind that is it really worth spending years in jail when there's another movie that might come out and all of a sudden now you can't see it because you had to beat somebody up to a bloody pulp? Just saying.
Fun fact, he's referring to the news.
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
a man, I want to say either in the Philippines or in Taiwan, one of the two.
Taiwan.
Yes,
Or no, it was Hong Kong. It was Hong Kong. Sorry.
Hong Kong. Okay.
Hong Kong.
He decided to be a lot like Harry Potter and come out and spoil the whole entire movie for a lot of people. Yes, it's a giant dick move, but I want to say up to 3 people, bare minimum, decided to gang up on him and beat him so bad that he was covered in blood, his own blood, and paramedics had to be called on scene. I'm sorry, I know you care about the movie, guys, but it's just a movie. It's
not worth your life.
It's not worth your life in jail. It's really not. And in all honesty, I will state this right now as another part of my review. This movie is so good that even if you are spoiled, you're still gonna fucking enjoy it.
That's true.
It's a good time at the movies.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, instead of the 5 seconds we usually give when we do a review, we're gonna give it up to 10. 10 whole seconds for you to get the fuck off my podcast.
And go watch the movie.
It's not time for me to get more coffee.
And stay for to get more coffee, so that we can start talking spoilers. I figure you might need to fumble with your phone and turn off the fucking podcast. So I'm giving you 10 seconds. Starting now. 10.
Especially those of you on live.
9.
Yes.
If
8.
you're on live and you haven't seen it yet,
7.
On live. I don't know if we're doing Instagram
6.
Live or if we're doing. I've got it on Twitch
5.
right now.
Twitch,
Get out.
4.
get out
3.
now.
Go.
Run
2.
for your lives. We're
Watch
about to
the movie.
spoil your
1.
freaking life.
Here we go. If you are still
Holy shit.
welcome,
Wow, dude.
holy fucking
Oh,
shit.
gosh.
my god.
Oh my god. Okay. Why don't we start again? Single Dad, why don't you go ahead and start again now? Just as
Before I get into a spoiler review of Endgame, I've just got to say something because we were talking Game of Thrones earlier, and all the people that don't watch Game of Thrones and everything like that. And I read something that made me giggle. It's if you've got a vegan CrossFitter that does not watch Game of Thrones, what do they talk about first?
now I get it. I get it now.
Oh,
yeah.
you're such
that's good.
dad.
Vegan
That
cross.
joke got old like 2 years ago.
So,
Relevant right now.
well, it's just like
Hey Jake,
the
you
only
do CrossFit?
time the only time I ever mentioned that I don't watch Game of Thrones is when people ask me, "Hey, did you watch Game of Thrones this week?" Like, no, man, I don't watch it.
See, that I understand.
So-
You ask somebody if they watch it and them saying no, that's one thing. It's the people
But,
that
like,
are like, the
I get
people that,
hell all the time from people
Well, yeah,
because I
because
don't watch Game of Thrones. It's
unfortunately-
like I tried. I watched
Yeah.
a few episodes.
The
It just
unfortunate-
wasn't
Yeah. the
like
unfortunate
it was
thing is-
interesting, but like not interesting enough for me to invest that much time.
Yeah.
Well,
I
unfortunately-
knew
I will
way
say
too
this-
much. I knew way too much about it by the time I had the ability to watch it that I was just not interested.
I will say this: whether you are a huge fan of Game of Thrones, like meh, which is like me, or you just don't watch it at all, but you like action movies, Sunday's episode was a good one to watch. Whether you were a huge fan and like deeply invested in these characters, whether you're like, meh, I like blood and guts, so cool. That which is kind of like the level that I'm at. It was just a good episode.
Oh yeah.
It was just a good action sequence, like from beginning to end. It was really well done.
Yeah. Seriously. Oh my
Yeah.
god. And then so I would like to make fun of something. Someone did an article on Game of Thrones about how it was the one article, and I don't think a lot of people agree with it, even men who are super macho and bravado, because I'm over here like, the fuck is this person talking about? This guy tried to pee on an article and say that the way they ended the episode with Arya Stark, that men everywhere are upset that they let a woman do what she did. And I'm over here like, are you kidding me?
No, we're not.
Holy
Macho
sexist, what?
bravado.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm like macho bravado over here, and I'm on my feet screaming like it's the Super Bowl
Yes.
because I fucking love Arya Stark. She is way more badass than any of the male characters that are on this show.
Arya Stark was a great fighter, male or female. And
Yeah.
Amazing.
yeah,
Fucking
she's
love
just a
her.
great fighter, and like the way that they choreographed it was really well done. And I like huge props to the producers and the choreographers for that.
She's a great fighter because she's been trained by assassins. Just saying. Anyway, so
All right.
let's get back on track with Endgame. Single Dad, you were up, my man.
Yes. Okay. So, like, I went to go see it. I dropped my kids off at school at 8:00 in the morning, and I went straight to the theater and saw it 8:45 on Friday. They went to go see it that weekend with their mom. We had a nice long discussion about it afterwards after they saw it, and we got to discuss some of our parts. And one of the first things out of their mouths was, "Dad, they killed Thanos in like the first 5 minutes. Like, they cut his head off." I'm like, wait, what? So, I mean, that's one of those things. It's like, holy crap! I don't think anybody expected that to happen.
Right.
But it set up the rest of the movie, because I absolutely loved it, where the story arc that they took Captain America on leading basically a PTSD survivors group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where we saw him when he met up with Sam. So everything like that. As for a favorite part of the movie, favorite part of the movie, I gotta say, I can't. The frickin' end credits. There was no end credit scene, but them just. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh.
You look like you're about to say.
Yeah, no, the end credits, it took me a bit because, again, everyone's thinking there's no credits, and I had to shut everybody up in the theater for a second. Again, dressed as Captain America, so people really actually go, oh, God, Captain America's telling us to shut the fuck up. We better shut up.
Yeah.
And I sat there on the last maybe 15 seconds of it. You can hear the sound bite from the original Hammer when Tony Stark is making the armor as homage to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh.
Well, that's the thing is, and I've seen it in videos, and I've seen like some of the reactions and everything like that, where the entire the end credits and everybody's clapping for each of the signatures, the autographs, and everything like that, and then Tony's comes up and Robert Downey Jr. comes up on the screen, and it's just standing ovation, and the crowd goes nuts.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a very very fitting end to it. As for my prediction last week and everything, I love the fact that it worked out. It worked out for Tony. It worked out for Cap, the way it should have, and that's the way that the MCU needed to end those characters.
Yeah, I had said it in previous discussions with friends that I feel like the reason why they took the route that they did was because in this movie, Tony ends up getting what he wants.
Yes.
You know, he gets that family, he gets that life. So for him to end it snapping Thanos away and dying in the process is fitting, and that for Captain America, Steve Rogers, to decide to say, fuck it, I'm going to get that life that Tony kept telling me I should go grab. It felt very fitting because, hey, Tony got what he wanted. Why not Cap? So.
Yeah. So I mentioned before how the dynamic between Clint and Natasha, they were my favorite characters. And again, it's one of those things. And she shows up where he is, and he's out on a mission, and he has lost everything. And obviously the half of the entire world is gone, but he doesn't know anything else. So I can understand his reaction. I can understand why he does what he does. And so he's got no family tying him down anymore. But she brings him back to humanity. She talks to him. She finds him, and is like, hey, listen, I know what you've done. I don't like what you've done. but I understand what you've done. So come on back. Let's get you taken care of, and come back. And so that's what I absolutely loved. And then with them on Vormir, their last scene together.
I can't.
Yeah,
What?
I would like to make so that scene.
Go ahead.
I'm adding on to what J4 is crying about. So for me, between Infinity War and Endgame, in Infinity War, I could see it coming a mile away. Okay, Thanos is gonna kill Gamora in order to get the Soul Stone. Yeah, his performance was great, whatever. But I was more or less just, okay, can you kill Gamora and get the fuck on with the rest of the movie? Let's go. Let's do this. Come on. Yeah. That scene in Endgame, I had no idea who was gonna go, and I was at the edge of my seat
I
going,
did.
oh,
I did.
oh.
I did.
But that's the thing is, I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, Clint's gonna say, because and that's what I thought they were building up in the beginning of the movie, was with him basically not turning bad, but basically not being the hero anymore. And I thought he was just gonna go take the flying leap, and then she stops him, and obviously the fight ensues and everything like that, and she puts him in a position where he can't do it, because even with Tush and Bruce and their relationship and everything like that, we know that they love each other.
Yeah.
They are battle buddies. That's that relationship that we keep talking about. That keeps bringing us back. So that's why I love that scene.
I will say this. I don't know how you didn't see it, because out of all the spinoffs, that's kind of one of those things that I didn't appreciate about Disney, was because they released like, oh, we're gonna come out with this, and this, and it was like, okay, so Hawkeye's gonna, like, they alluded to stuff with Hawkeye, and I was like, okay, so as soon as they landed on Vormir, I was like, okay, she's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that feeling that you had for Thanos in the last one, I was like, not as extreme, like, hey, kill her already, but like it was just like, okay, like that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like jump in there.
No.
Yeah, to continue, the other ones are your favorite drama, your favorite comedy, your favorite nod to the comics, and of course the what you wish they could have done differently and or better.
As for the drama, it's that scene on Vormir.
Yeah.
Comedy. What is it? What's it? Noob 69.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with
Noob
Thor.
Slayer
Yeah.
69.
Noob Slayer
I
69.
will fly over to your house and destroy you.
Can I say how many people are like that? Like that? Oh man.
Hold on.
I'll
let
get
me
into that.
say this. Like right now, my son is here with my Whoopi. He's online playing Fortnite.
Yeah, like the majority of like the
10-year-old
Fortnite fan base is a bunch of 10-year-olds.
But he's playing the Fortnite Endgame.
Nice.
He's playing the Endgame variant, and he collected the shield and Stormbreaker and the bow and the gauntlet, the Iron Man's gauntlets. So yeah, that whole scene, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So how it fits in with the rest of the series, again, and it's the perfect little bow. And it ends everything the way it should end. We got to say goodbye in the very best way to some iconic characters which have been there since the beginning. So yeah.
And of course, at the end of it is what you favorite nod to the comics and what you wish they could have done differently and or better.
I wish they could have treated, well, not nod to the comics, but I'm gonna say my favorite nod was basically when Steve's radio starts crackling, and all you hear is "on your left."
On your left.
Yeah.
Yep. Basically throwing it back on to earlier MCU. I just absolutely loved that, and I mean, I was about to pee in my seat in that scene, not because I had to go or anything. I was just that excited. I mean, I was like
Mhm.
puppy
You
dog.
didn't have to go, whatever.
You're just being PG-13 right now, saying pee instead of jizz. Let's be honest here. You wish you wore your white pants.
I will say this, I'm so glad you have headphones on so that we don't have to explain to your son what jizz is.
Yeah, thank you.
With all the
This
things
is
that we've
actually-
said the last, 11 episodes, at this point I wouldn't be surprised if they know everything. Like, seriously.
So and then what was the last part? I'm sorry.
What you wish they would do differently and or better, if anything.
Differently and or better. I.
Yeah.
Telling me that Back to the Future sucks. No, screw you. Back to the Future's awesome. I mean, their explanation of time travel. Their explanation of time travel kind of.
He's listed off all the time travel movies. Die Hard? No, wait, that doesn't work.
That's not it.
Oh,
So,
God.
but yeah, and some of the treatment of the minor characters, which we know are going to be coming back in the next phase of the MCU. Yeah, I wasn't too happy with that. I mean, it is what it is. This was a feather in the cap for Captain America and Iron Man. This was their movie. Yeah.
We're gonna spice things up a little bit though, and we're gonna flow it over to Cosplay Jenemy. Your turn, my lady.
Oh,
I'm so excited. I'm sorry.
oh my goddess.
I'm sorry.
She got excited there for a second.
I did. I might need to clean up on all three. Excuse me. Hold up. I'm kidding. Okay. Don't mind me.
Cosplay Jenemy, it's your turn.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, Mayan goddess is cracking me up.
She does that.
Yeah, she does. Okay, what are we doing?
The why for your favorite character.
The why
favorite
for
scene, like and why drama and or comedy, and the favorite nod of the comics, and anything you would like to see better or differently.
Okay, so of course I love Natasha, and just the way that she handled her grief and throwing herself into her work and trying to make things better that didn't even have to be better. Like one of my favorite parts, I guess, was when she's trying to figure out what to do about an earthquake. Like, she's so stuck on trying to fix everything, like even things as minor as earthquakes that there's nothing you can do about. She had to fix. She wanted to fix. She had to fix everything at this point. And I could feel everything from her, I guess. She was just so there. And then, of course, the final battle scene when Wanda comes out and Thanos is like, I don't even know who you are. She's like, you will.
Right? You took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. And then her eyes glow bright red. You will.
And then, because it's like, you think about the first movie where she takes him on one-handed while emotionally drained, while killing her boyfriend with the other hand.
And you also have to bear in mind, like, the people that came back, like Spider-Man said, it was like, oh, we just passed out, so they didn't like really
know what happened. They don't know.
They don't realize it's, nor do they know that this is a Thanos that they didn't just fight. It was someone from like years ago who hadn't even met any of them yet. So like,
and then she had like her full-on powers directed just at him.
Yeah,
I think that made me the happiest. Just to watch
because
that.
she beat his ass so damn hard that he was willing to sacrifice everything just to keep himself alive.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
She was literally tearing him apart.
Yeah.
I want to say that was the first time he showed fear. Like, any of the Avengers.
Yes. And then, of course, the second time being Captain Marvel when he headbutts her.
Oh yeah,
and,
when he hits
Yeah.
nothing.
and she doesn't move.
like
like-
when Batman
Just
punches
fucking
Superman in the
stares at
that
him
was
like,
literally Batman punching Superman in the face multiple times until nothing happened, and then Batman stepping back going, shit. That was so dope. And because her intense look at Thanos' face, like, I'm gonna fucking kill you if you headbutt me again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Drama
so those,
and comedy scenes.
I guess it's gonna have to be Natasha and Clint because I mean all of them together. I mean even just the Budapest line killed
Mhm.
me.
Right? That was awesome.
I mean, they-
Budapest.
Yeah. I mean, you can just tell like their love for each other, just every part. I mean, you know, platonic love, but just still they are
Can
the best of friends.
whatever the Black Widow movie is supposed to be, can it please, for the love of God, be about Budapest so we can
Oh,
find
Right?
out?
I disagree. I don't want to know. I want
Yeah.
that mystery.
It's
I
kind of
think
like
you
in
should all
Sherlock and when he jumped off the building in Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, and everyone's like trying to figure out what happened. And everyone's like, and eventually they basically addressed it
Yeah.
like, look, you can have your theories, and we'll let you keep thinking them. We're not going to share our secrets, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the beauty of that, I think.
Yeah, I love their
I
I
will-
love their Budapest.
I will say this though, on to add on to what she's saying, it's so refreshing to see like this dynamic between two characters that isn't layered in like will they, won't they? It's like we know they're not going to, but like there's still that camaraderie that it's nice
Yeah.
to see that not end up in like them falling in love and sleeping together and all that and happily ever after together. Like no, that there are friendships like that. And it's nice to see
Yeah.
that.
I do like it. I'm glad they did it. It pissed me off originally when I first watched the very first with the two of them, very first Avengers with the two of them because they are together in the comics. And it pissed me off so hard when I found out he had a family. So that was really hard for me to get over. But once I got over, I do love their friendship. But it did take me a little bit to get over from the comics.
And their friendship, like even if Barton didn't have a family, them still just being basically brother and sister makes sense simply based on how they became friends. Because it wasn't like your typical meet cute in a movie. It was he was sent to kill her and decided I got a better idea.
Well, that's what was supposed to happen to Mera and Aquaman in the comics, and that whole thing pissed me off. Glad I waited until that was out on DVD. Sorry.
Damn. Oh, damn.
Sorry. Let me not go into a whole other movie.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Hey.
It's already out on
How
DVD.
can you say spoiler alert? We're literally in a thing where it's spoilers allowed. We're doing a spoiler review.
Hey, now,
Right.
hold
No
on.
holds barred,
For-
okay?
No, for Endgame, we didn't say anything about Aquaman.
No,
We didn't say anything about Game of Thrones either,
I'm
okay?
with Quiet Goddess on this one. We are in spoiler territory right
Yeah.
now.
Spoiler
If
alert is in
anything
effect.
gets said,
We
it's
did
on
not
them
specify
for
on what.
listening. Yeah.
Dumbledore dies.
No! Yeah, I know.
Here comes the dolphin.
Yep.
Sorry.
I think that's my one superpower is to turn Mayan Goddess into a dolphin.
So now we're gonna make a T-shirt where J4 looks like Dumbledore using the wand, and then Mayan Goddesses can become the dolphin.
Dolphin eyes.
Just a dolphin wearing a Wonder Woman costume.
Oh,
Oh my god. That should be our prize for some reason. Just a dolphin plushie
Just
with Wonder Woman.
Apparently, ignore me. Apparently, my son, it really wants me to go into the Jack Shack right now. That's kind of weird.
Camouflage.
Oh, what? See? No, hold on. All right. See? This is what I'm talking about. Oh, thank God he doesn't have to hear the word jizz. And then he just says Jack Shack in front of his son. All right? Let's be clear here.
He has
Them
no
boys
idea
are
what that is.
educated.
I'm gonna say, yeah, that one kid probably has no idea what that is. He thinks it's something
If
cute.
you're not teaching your kids about the birds and the bees, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yep.
Well, the birds and the bees and all of the fun names, no.
The bees
gonna
with
hear 'em.
yourself, yes.
They're gonna
yes.
they're gonna hear them anyway.
We'll not get into parenting tips right now.
Or
We
where
have
were
the
we?
best
Horrible
references for
parenting.
that.
Horrible parenting.
Horrible parents. You gotta get any more out there, Jenny?
Well, I really don't want to say my favorite comic book to movie part because it's yours and you will probably murder me in my sleep.
No, I'll just continue it anyway.
You-
There's tons to choose from anyway. I'll get to some. See, I have my own personal favorite nod to the comics, and it's because it had been talked about by my friends for so long, and then when I saw it on screen, I go, "Oh my god, I can't wait for them to see this movie," so then they can go, "Oh my god, hey, we've been talking about this. Here it is." So if you're done,
I know. I actually thought about you during the movie.
Aww.
I'm
I
not
was
gonna
like-
lie. I might bring it up only because I brought it up last week. If it's what I'm thinking it
No,
is.
I guarantee we have not talked about this.
Okay, then we're good. Then I'm
Solid.
safe.
Yeah.
Then you won't kill me in my sleep. I feel better. At least not for that.
No, I'll just snap you.
Oh, I don't have my jewelry on today.
I know, right? So,
Oh my
since
god, I don't have my jewelry on. That's good.
J4, you are up next, good sir.
Wait, I didn't.
Yeah, let her finish.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Typical man move, not letting the girl finish.
Oh,
And that's where I was going with it.
Right?
raising.
With the whole funeral scene.
I will
Let
have
me tell you,
know.
I
don't wanna hear
wanted
about you and your girl.
to murder the MCU for doing nothing really for Natasha. And I get it. It's the whole movie about the boys. It's a boys club movie. I get it. And yes, they had that moment on the pier, but that was not. They could have added her in at the funeral and it wouldn't have been that big a deal. It just pisses me off. The boy gets the whole huge funeral and the girl gets well, this is sad, and a bench thrown into the lake.
Oh, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That was a little on the shocking side.
That is the reason I took the movie down like an entire notch.
I mean,
That's one reason.
yeah, because it's not like they had a big funeral full with anybody who ever knew fucking Tony Stark. It's not like a Superman funeral. This was anybody who's been in the Avengers funeral. So yeah, where was Natasha's funeral? Where was her? Okay, we're saying goodbye. Where was hers? So that makes sense. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so that whole thing pissed me off. I not angry, but really hurt by they had the one in the end scene, the one girl power strike off while Spider-Man is sitting there holding the gauntlet in tears because he's been attacked for a really long time. He held that thing for a really long time, let me just say. And then they do the same. I don't know how you're going to get this all the way around by yourself. And they're like, she's not alone. And it's all the girls, all of the women. And I was like, yes, they're all together running this gauntlet. But except for Natasha. So then I was sad.
Just don't think about it and you'll move on, I promise.
Well, it was like this final last battle scene with all of the women and not Natasha, and it was very sad. I was like, You gave me the scene finally. I mean, you almost gave me that scene in the last movie, but you gave me the entire, and then she's still missing.
Yeah.
It was almost like they passed up, like one went down, but there were like 6 others that took the mantle.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that whole scene was amazing, like everything. But that from the time that Spider-Man crying in his pants right there was hilarious. I I shouldn't laugh at these like really intense emotional scenes, but I'm not an emotional person. I did not cry during this movie. Let me just tell you. Did not cry, did not shed a tear, not at all. I do not cry in movies. The only time you're going to get me to cry is when I am pissed off, and usually at somebody and I'm yelling at them. If
You mean
I'm
like your
sad-
husband for talking to you through the movie?
Yes!
Little too
We
enthusiastic.
love you, Jeremy's husband, but I had to bring that up. That's just a sin.
One of those things where I'm wondering, does he listen to the podcast?
He's like 5, 6 episodes behind. So it'll be like 3 months from now, and he'll finally get here and be like, "You
Hey.
dumb."
Oops. Okay. Now
What are
can
you
we
doing?
shift gears?
Yes, sorry. Am I okay?
Making sure.
Thank you for giving her the time she deserves.
Right? Giving
You
the
are
woman the
getting
time she deserves.
snapped. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm
Yes.
kidding.
J4, good sir, it is your turn.
Hold on, let me consult the scroll in which you set up all the questions
all
that
have a
I have
script,
to
by the
answer.
way.
No,
that we
hold
have to
on, hold
cover.
on.
I could give you
This
one
is-
more question because there is one more thing that pisses me off, and I haven't talked about that yet.
This is all
Uh,
credit to you, J4, because after our first episode, you were like, we need way more organization so that our podcast isn't all over the place. This is you. This is all thanks to you.
We can discuss this offline later. Jenemy, the floor is yours to continue with your rant.
I feel like all I'm doing is ranting, but whatever. Spider-Man.
I yield.
We're gonna have office hours
you
later.
may cover topics that we were thinking of too. So you have got the better voice in this.
Spider-Man. Let
Yeah.
me bring up Spider-Man. At
Okay.
the end, 5 years later, why is everybody in high school still? Did every
Yes.
single person that he is in high school with get snapped away?
That was,
According to the Russos, yes.
yes, that was my understanding as well, because at first I'm like, wait a
An
minute.
entire
what? 'Cause
class?
they-
Yeah.
Well, at least Ned, because I mean he's the only one that I actually recognized.
Yeah, they were the ones who had the impactful hug. But then on top of everything else, as we've already clearly seen, thanks to Sony fucking it all up for us, there's a lot of characters in his class that are in that movie that are all on this class trip.
Yeah.
They're not in college. They're all in the same class.
Well, because
in
even
that-
if they were in college, they would still be 5 years apart from each other. Some of
Yeah.
them should have aged.
Yes.
There is that. There is also a theory that that people that are pretty vital to the Spider-Man series that we haven't seen yet, because of that 5-year gap, are now in the picture. So just
Yeah.
because we see the same characters doesn't mean that all the important characters were part of that snap. There might be people that are in there now that are in there because of that 5-year gap. So they've got a little bit of wiggle room that they can play around with that.
We'll find out in the summer.
Yeah, we'll find out. But I guess, I don't know, the way that his friend acted didn't really act like they'd both been snapped away. It really acted like he had been survived for 5 years.
That was how I felt too, but according to the Russos, apparently
Yeah.
Ned snapped out too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody keeps saying that to me too. Every time I've talked about this to people,
Yeah.
they're like, no, he's just emotional because he just came back and he knew his friend was in that battle and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm just like, the way he acted just seemed a little more.
I agree.
No,
it seemed that way.
It's because it's kind of like how I was like, wait, what? When they're doing the circle, the PTSD circle about everything, and he brings up Thanos nonchalantly, and I'm like, okay, so are we now under the assumption that this is all because of Thanos? Like, the remainder of the Avengers or whatever got on TV, and we're just supposed to assume that they're like, I'm sorry all this happened. This is because of a character named Thanos. That's the only logical explanation I could think of, but we didn't get any information in terms of news that would suggest that. Like,
I mean, no, but it has been 5 years. Word would spread.
Yeah.
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 That part I was like, why is this so nonchalant? And two, but at the same time, it was like, okay, it's kind of like with us in the news. Like we find out about major events pretty quickly now, thanks to technology and stuff like that. So there's nothing that would stop the world from eventually finding out within those 5 years
Yeah.
that this went down.
Anyway,
Okay. J4. I passed the baton.
J4. Floor is officially now yours, good sir.
Okay, so I've already said my favorite character. Definitely Barton. My favorite scenes. I've got to go with agreeing with Single Dad here on the first scene that we see Barton and Natasha together, when she basically pulls him back from the abyss. Well, for two reasons. One, because that scene was very emotionally touching and it made sense, especially when he's like, "Don't do that. Don't give me hope."
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's like you said, he's lost everything that's important to him. His whole reason for continuing to be an Avenger has it's gone. And then the line, they got Thanos, you get me. I was like, ooh, that's some cold-blooded serial killer shit right there. And just that whole scene was just badass of just him tearing apart the Yakuza like it was nothing. Yeah, that scene was just a lot. But the fact that, hey, I got you. It was, when that their relationship came full circle. Going from him saving her from doing some crazy shit to her saving him from, a worldwide murderous rampage. So yeah, that was, and so the first time I watched it, I'm with Jenemy here. I did not cry. There were scenes where I was like, "Oh God, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this," but I didn't. However, the second time I watched it, even though I knew it was coming, watching Barton's face when Natasha jumps, oh God, and tear went down my face. It was hard, and then when they're by the lake, the next scene, when he was like, "It should have been me," I was like, "Oh God, I can't." Yeah. Comedic wise, I'll be honest, like most of the comedy just kind of fell flat for me. Most of it just seemed like cheap humor. Given how intense the movie was, like it was like the humor wasn't very deep. It was very surface level, and I get it. They were just trying to, because I mean, you can't be emotionally draining for 3 hours without some moments of levity and people to actually want to go back and watch it again, which is what they're trying to do, because Avatar's got to go down Avatar's got to come down, especially since it's not that great of a movie.
Oh,
Damn!
Am I wrong?
I actually really like Avatar.
It's a
Not gonna
great
lie.
Dances with Wolves skin.
I didn't like Dances with Wolves, but I loved Avatar.
And
It's
Last
the
Samurai.
Same movie.
It's Fern Gully.
It is more Fern Gully. I would say Fern Gully.
Yeah. It's
But I still really
like
like
those,
it.
like there's a
Pocahontas.
series of
the
stories.
same
There's like a
movie.
general theme / story that is all the same, that encompasses all of those movies. So it's like,
there's always someone who writes a story first, then everybody else kind of remixes it to make their own tale.
Well,
You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, it's the same movie to everything," because then, in all honesty, every movie is ripping off of Bram Stoker's Dracula in terms of vampire tales. Like, it's gonna happen.
there's just certain formulas that sell. Yeah.
I just didn't find it interesting. But anyway, yeah, like I didn't really enjoy the comedy that much. I mean, there was some chuckle-worthy moments, like, you know, here, give me that, you get the small one.
Right. No. I get the big one. You get the little one. And they continue on with the axe and the hammer.
Yeah, which by the way, we're totally doing that when I get back. I'm even looking
Fun
into.
fact for those who don't know, we have a Captain America and a Thor. So that's what they're referring to.
Yes.
Yes.
If they don't know this by now, they really need to go like check our pages out just a little bit.
Right?
And maybe
Just in case there's anybody
I don't know,
new.
just a thought.
Totally doing Lebowski Thor.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, Thor, as a whole, like, up until this movie, Thor's character arc has been my favorite until this movie, and then they kind of ruined it for me. He really needed a win to make his arc complete. Like, he needed an epic moment in this movie where he is the badass hero to really round his arc off, because, like, he starts off pretty awesome, and then, you know, he's being humbled, and then, okay, now I'm starting to lose everything. I lose my mom, I lose my dad, I lose my brother, my sister, my fucking planet, half my people. I'm losing. I all of a sudden become extraordinarily badass in Infinity War, but he still ends up failing through his own arrogance. And it would have been more satisfying if we get to end his character arc with him winning. And
I think he did.
Did he though?
He did.
I mean, really,
How?
it was
Okay, so he gets to go back and see his mom, for one. And he gets to say goodbye to her. And then he gets to realize that the person that he thought he was going to be his entire life isn't him. And he got to say goodbye to the person he has been trained to be his entire life, and now he gets to find himself. And I think that's gorgeous and beautiful, and I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it.
It just wasn't very satisfying to me.
It was for me. I mean, I guess you're like so bonded with him but to me, I loved it. His storyline I loved more than any of them.
It was basically Thor growing up. It's basically what it was. It was Thor going,
he's
you know
not
what?
done.
I don't need this. He essentially turned into his dad. He was a fighter for so long, doing all these things, and then realized, I can grow up. Wow.
That's not him. He was told his entire life that this is who he's going to be. This is what 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 he's going to be. And then he realized
he had to keep proving over and over.
To prove himself. And then he realized he wouldn't have to keep proving himself if he became who he wanted to be. And he's not a leader.
I was reading something about that the other day.
He's not a king leader. He is a mentor. He's somebody who wants to push other people to be better.
Yeah.
I was reading something about that the other day, and it basically brought the whole Thor story arc down to, hey, you know what? He gets to be the lovable rogue in the story. He is yes, he's the god of thunder, and he is still worthy and everything like that. Even though he's gone off and is now yelling at 10-year-olds playing Fortnite on PS4, he's still worthy. But he's still worthy of carrying the hammer. He's still worthy of carrying Stormbreaker. So that's the thing. Just because he was supposed to be this one thing, that doesn't mean that's what he is. So it just didn't. I agree with Jeremy.
And I'm just gonna agree to disagree. I just didn't.
That's fine.
I didn't really care too much for it.
You don't have to like it.
And his storyline isn't over.
No, his
storyline's not over. We got
and I get
confirmation that his contract got extended, and he will be in the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
As Guardians. Galaxy.
Excited about that.
And yeah, I get that, and I am excited to see his character more. I also think it's kind of redundant, him being with the Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of redundant because, I mean, he doesn't really need them
He doesn't need them, but he is a team
at
player.
all.
He is a behind the scenes leader.
Yes, but now we
Sympathy
can bring in Adam Warlock and Beta Ray Bill and all these other wonderful characters.
I just
Nova.
feel like
Yes.
he's not a king.
Let's see. Nod to the comics. I don't really have anything because I don't really read other than Civil War line. I've never really read the Marvel comics. Let's see. I basically touched on main thing. I would have wished they would have done better. Honestly, I wish they would have let. Like, I get why they did it the way they did, and it made sense. But part of me still wishes that Tony would have been able to retire and be with Pepper and Morgan, and just and it just get to eat cheeseburgers with his daughter.
I know.
I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. Oh god.
So happy.
Okay, I'm done.
Mayan Goddess, it is your turn.
I don't hear you.
So
Yeah.
we can't hear you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's because I was typing for a second there. It's probably good. It's probably good because I had to stand with J4 on the Thor thing. Like, if we're gonna start off with things that I wish they did, I appreciate kind of why they did it. But at the same time, like, oh God, what did you do to Thor? Like, it. I wish he could have bounced back harder, and it almost made it feel like he got tagged along and tossed aside and was like, hey, I'm gonna hang out with the Guardians, and it was just like, no, like, he went from being such a noble person to kind of like, hey, I'm gonna joke around and be like the Joker character, and it hurt to watch for me. I do appreciate that he did get that goodbye with his mother, and he was like, yeah, I'm still worthy even though I derailed so hard, but it hurt to watch Thor throughout this movie.
Can I just say one thing?
What's up?
And I am not upset about melted ice cream Thor. Like, the direction that is, like, I've talked with some of my other friends about this, and like, that was one of the things that they like threw at me. They're like, you're just pissed they made Thor fat, and I'm like, no, like, that actually made sense.
That was funny. That was
Again, it's one of those psychology things. How everybody.
It was chuckle worthy, but it totally made sense for him at that moment. But like Mayan said, I wish he would have bounced back a little better. But okay, I'm done interrupting you now. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Thank you. But yeah, like, for me, like, just like seeing him dip was cool, but like there was like everybody else kind of like had their shining moment, and for Thor, I was just like, it was almost like he got kind of tossed into a different realm and a different storyline, and I did not like that at all. But that being said, I was so happy I mentioned this last time, and as soon as I saw the hammer back, I was like, yes, it's gonna happen. Yes, it's gonna happen. My favorite scene, and the fucking nod to the comics, Captain America finally got to wield the hammer.
Yeah,
and
that's what I avoided saying.
I'm about to butcher the name, so I'm just gonna call it the hammer because I always butcher it. But say it please for me.
Mjolnir?
Yes, because I'm gonna say Munkaka or something like that. I always get it wrong.
As soon as that opening night, I had 2 requests for people that want me to make it.
Yeah, it was
two
so good.
Cap cosplayers want me to make it for them.
Fuck yeah! As they should. But yeah, like that scene, I mentioned it earlier, but like when that happened, I screamed bloody murder, like, "Ah!" And scared the shit out of the lady next to me, by the way. Like, because I was like being super polite, and then all of a sudden I just went into like Marine mode, like, fucking kill them all. And yeah. So that
I
for me
think
was my favorite scene. And that was one of two of my favorite like callbacks to the comics. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I think I made my supervisor piss his pants.
I'm pretty sure the entire theater that I was in screamed just as loud.
Oh, the majority of ours,
Yeah.
but he until last Sunday, he really wasn't into the Marvel stuff. Like he'd seen a few of the movies, wasn't that into it. And we're like I bought tickets for my entire shift. I was like, we're all going, we're doing this as a group activity, this is gonna be a thing. And he was like, it's not really my thing. And I'm like, hold on, we got nothing going on today because we got all our work done earlier in the day. And I was like, we're watching Infinity War and you are going to want to see this movie. We get like, and I'm like, and we're going to watch it now. And any questions you have, you will ask them now. If you ask me any questions during the movie, I don't care if you're my boss, I'm going to stab you. And he did great. But like, we're getting it was so hilarious, like watching his face and stuff like that while watching Infinity War. And he's like, oh, they're gonna bring them all back. Oh, that they're not gonna stay dead. They can't kill off everyone. And as soon as and this was after Thanos tossed Gamora, he's like, oh, they can't kill everyone off. And me and another one of my buddies just look at each other, look at him, you're so cute. And then the movie ends, and he's just staring at the screen like, now I have to go see Endgame. And he was so pumped by the time we got to the movie. He's like, I can't wait to watch this movie. So that was like my victory.
Yay! I'm
And
so
you didn't
proud
have
of
to wait a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, now you understand why we're so excited. We've been waiting a goddamn year for this cliffhanger to end.
Decade.
He's like, I get it.
Waiting a decade.
I
Yeah,
will say, every time people call it a cliffhanger now, I watch the director, the Russo brothers. I watched their little they had a
little documentary.
A little interview with them, and they were talking about it being the biggest cliffhanger, and they're like, it's not a cliffhanger. It is Thanos' entire story from start to finish.
Yep.
He was the person that had the storyline. He was
the protagonist in this.
Yeah. And so it was his story, his arc, his finish. And so now every time people say, that the cliffhanger, I'm like, it wasn't a cliffhanger. It was a complete story. Just
I mean, yeah, sure, that's cute. It was a cliffhanger.
So it's like my favorite thing now, just to annoy people. It's fun. That's what I do.
But yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I will say this. There was a really cool callback to a very controversial thing that happened a couple years ago when Captain America said "Hail Hydra."
Oh yes, I did love that.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like when they brought that up, I was instantly thinking of that huge shitstorm that happened when it came up in the comics, and everyone's like, "How dare they? It's Captain America!" So like seeing that, I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
I appreciated that Captain America's walking away from that scene smiling because he's like,
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of dumbasses. That's how easy it is.
He
to
just
fool them.
mind fucked them all.
Right?
They were just like,
They're like,
Wait, what?
Oh, you know who we are, okay?
Or when he's fighting himself, he's like, and his old self says, "I can do this all day." He's like,
yeah, I know.
I get you. Come on.
yeah, that was pretty funny.
America's
Honestly, like that scene had the most comedic value that actually landed with me. Like, that whole scene.
Yeah, all of them getting like that whole past thing was awesome.
Yeah,
I like the way it went down.
Well, Cap was the only one that actually got to confront an older version of himself.
Yes, absolutely.
And you could see the
whole
annoyance
thing
on
cracks
Cap's
me up.
face with how, I don't know, naive, I guess you could say, that old Cap was.
Yeah.
yeah.
He was like, really? I was really this bad?
Yeah.
Means young Cap.
Aw.
We need to rephrase that. Young Cap, not old
Fair.
Cap.
Okay. 2012 Cap.
Yeah.
How-
90
Younger
Cap,
Cap.
don't do that.
He was
Younger Cap.
before he became the salty E6 E7.
Before he started swearing more often.
It was
Yeah.
like the Staffin Seal facing his Lance Corporal self. He's like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
Stop chugging the Kool-Aid, dude.
It's no,
That's
that's
He was not
that's not
drinking
the.
the Kool-Aid. He was swimming
That's-
in the Kool-Aid.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's not the E4 Mafia version of Cap.
Oh.
E4
That's
Mafia
like-
version of Cap. I mean, dude, I wouldn't even want to think about that.
I don't
He'd be
know.
out
I
drink-
feel like it's
He'd be out. Go ahead.
He'd be out married.
I feel like it was like
Married, driving
Driving
a
a fucking Camaro
a Camaro or a Dodge Charger.
or a goddamn
Freaking-
Mustang.
I am so
Popping Red Bulls and Rippets.
Don't you trash talk my rippets. Don't make me come down there.
They can buy that stuff. That's still.
I
in
mean,
his
we
life.
would love it if you came over.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't threaten us with a good time.
Hey.
Bring some
I
rippets
said
while you're
earlier.
Anyways,
I will say this, if we ever do end up doing a panel together or in the same room together, the world will implode. Like,
It's like,
it's going to happen.
We'll be
That would
like
be fun.
talking on top of each other. We'll be like, this is the unedited version of us. Not virgin.
version? Yeah. I
The
tried to say
unedited
virgin.
version.
I was like, wait, what?
I did say
Ugh.
that at first.
Freudian slip.
Unedited
It's okay.
virgin. Gotcha. Continue, Mike.
So that was like, for me, that was a kind of comedic moment for me that I really enjoyed. Was the Hail Hydra part, because I was like, oh! For me, the most dramatic scene, it was very subtle and I loved it, was when Tony got to talk to his dad one final time. And that
yeah.
for me, like, that cemented, I was like, oh, he's gotta die. He's gonna die, because that's his family arc. He's protecting his family. He's gonna die. So that, like, for me, I was like, it's a spoiler, but at the same time, it was one of those cathartic, like, he finally has that good conversation with his dad. He can finally get closure for all the stuff that was going on throughout his life. And so, and to see him be like, oh, well, like, yeah, I've got a kid, and like they get to like bond over that. That was really, really sweet for me. And yeah, like overall, I still like, I wouldn't put it at the same level as you, Tom. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say my favorite comic book movie ever. I still appreciated Infinity War more. But overall, it was really done. And I love how they ended it, because Cap finally got his dance. He finally
Yes.
got his dance. He had mentioned it so many times, and to see that, like, that made me, like, if I were to cry in that movie at all, it would have been at that dance, and it would have been tears of joy.
So Cap finally gets laid. That's what we're saying.
Yes, finally. Okay, so my turn. So yeah, obviously, for the favorite character of Cap is because the way they ended his arc and the way they gave him some stuff, and we finally got to hear Captain America say "Avengers Assemble." Finally.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. And it was the best too, and it was hilarious. After the first time watching it, her handle is the Queen Bee cosplay. She ended up being at the event, and she was helping people take photos with their phones and whatnot. And every once in a while, if everybody wasn't paying attention for the group photos, she'd look at me and goes, "Tom, you're dressed up as Cap. Come on!" And I go, "Oh, and I'm like, how do I say it?" And every time I said it, I felt so weird and out of place. So finally, the very end of the night, when everyone's already in the theater for the second showing, because we were there for both first and second showings, but we weren't allowed to see it again. We had to take the big ensemble photo with everybody there to say, thank you for having us and whatnot. And so I'm looking over at the other group, and I said it just like in the movie, and I was so proud of myself. Avengers Assemble. And I was like, oh, he did it. All right, that's great. Yeah, that was proud moments. Yay! So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Cap and everything that had happened to him, what was going on. I knew right away from the get-go that stuff was going to happen for Cap in a big way. I didn't know what they were going to do per se, but ever since that circle for everyone talking about, losing people, he brought up Peggy. He brought up being in the ice for 65 years. He brought up all that stuff. And to me, that said to me, they're going to tie off a lot of stuff because now he's finally talking about it. He's finally sharing. Because throughout the rest of these other movies, he's been just soldiering on, moving on. This movie, he finally gets to say, I'm exhausted. It's time to retire. It's time to call it, throw in the towel, blah, blah, blah. So that was, I love that. So favorite scene is actually what gave me tears of joy. It goes alongside with Mind Goddess and the Hammer. For me, it was Captain America, and you see this, I'm just going to call it Lord of the Rings vibe of Captain America facing an entire army single-handedly. And he's sitting there, and he's already exhausted, but, it's Cap. He can do it all day. So he's just like, no, I can't. I can't let these guys slide. If I have to fight these guys by myself, I will. And then all of a sudden, Cap, do you read me? Cap, it's Sam. On your left. And then he turns around and the portal opens up, and then all these portals open up. Sam flies through, and he watches as Sam flies, and you just see this look in Cap's eyes going, I have hope again. We're gonna fucking do this, and we're gonna beat the shit out of Thanos. And I was crying of joy with that. I'm like, yes, this is so good. Fuck yeah! The whole armies, everybody's showing up. Valkyrie's coming out on her fucking horse. Fucking Spider-Man showing up. The Guardians all together. Freaking even the everybody who's at the school comes out. Is this everyone? Like you needed more?
Is it bad that I actually thought that while that whole thing was happening, I was thinking of Anchorman?
Oh, because everybody just keeps showing
I
up.
couldn't. I was like,
Oh,
I
God.
was laughing when that happened. I was just like, wait. I was in this too.
Oh, he was, wasn't he?
So, but that was my favorite scene up into the big fight while the Avengers theme is playing, and how it all went in, and that was pretty dope. And for the most part, I loved the whole fight scene. Everybody had something important to do. There was cool little moments where they realized that even though they're in the heat of combat, they look over at the person that they lost, and they're like, let's do this together. I'm so happy you're back. Let's do this, So that was
Rocket using his body as a human shield, or a raccoon shield over Groot.
right.
Oh my god, yeah. He was like, I'm not losing you again.
Right. So
He
that
picked
was
up his arm.
right. That was pretty awesome. But actually, my nod to the comics, I was super surprised. Professor Hulk. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Finally, thank God. It was so hilarious. We were all talking at work about how hilarious it would be that if we either get Professor Hulk or we get one of the other versions. Because we have no idea what's gonna what happens to Thunderbolt Ross. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he turns into Red Hulk.
Red Hulk.
I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I was like, what if that happens? What if he's like, well, I want to stop everything, so he turns into Red Hulk? Who knew? But the first thing that comes out of my friend's mouth is Professor Hulk. How hilarious would that be? And I saw the movie before him, so my entire reaction seeing that was, oh my god, my friend's gonna love this. Fuck, that is amazing. And it was so good. It was so good. I just wish he learned how to fight while being Professor Hulk, because otherwise he's just, a scientist with strength. Going down the scene, he goes, I think it's a little gratuitous, but all right, fine. Just starts jokes, smashing things. Yeah, that was great. So for nod to the comics, that was my favorite nod to the comics.
He did get it. He did get it back right after Natasha when he picked up the bench.
Yep.
He found it back
through that bench. Favorite drama scene. I did not see what was going to happen to Captain America coming. I saw what was going to happen to Tony, and the only reason why I saw what was happening to Tony was because some asshole posted it on YouTube. At first, I thought I was okay because they were just saying Endgame spoiler scene, and I'm like, all right, cool, I could skip past this. Somebody posts on YouTube Tony Stark's death scene. I'm like, why? You fucking asshole. Why? Are you kidding me? Well, now I know he's going to die. That's great. Good to know. Fine, whatever. So I didn't know what was going to happen to Cap. So him showing up as an old man in terms of a drama scene was a good happy drama scene for me, good serious moment because, again, as I said about his story arc, he got his happy ending, you know? Got that life that Tony always kept saying about. And I was aw.
I knew it was happening.
Tony got it too.
Happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the same scene that when they go back to the 70s, it was like you can kind of see both of what's going to happen. He saw Peggy and was like, I can't let her go. So like even when he was standing on the platform, it was like there's no way he's coming back.
Right.
Yeah, as soon as
he's done. He can put the shield down.
Which bringing that up, so his shield is broken, obviously. And my only logical explanation behind what had transpired is that he has enough training in espionage, and so does Peggy, that he can stay hidden behind the scenes for those years that he needs to hang out. Essentially, there were, in fact, 2 Captain Americas at the same time. And the proof in the pudding of all of that is because all these other moments that you would argue fucked up the timeline, Loki with the space stone,
Disney TV show,
snapping Thanos and his armies to dust, who he's from an alternate timeline. Basically, to answer those questions, as long as the stones are placed back in the time in which they are at, those timelines can go on being, but they've created new splintered timelines. So it's created a bit of a closed circuit, yes, but now they do have separate timelines. Oh, and then on top of that, still on the Space Stone, they took it out of the cube, so how they're getting it back from that point in time in which they did is beyond me, but okay, sure, that's gonna be a thing. But the shield and the espionage part are the one thing that I have so many questions about, because that's essentially 2 Captain Americas in the exact same time coexisting. And furthermore, the guy who's playing as Drax next to me actually pointed out something very interesting. If you pay close attention, that shield is actually a different design. It's not the same shield. I'm like, what? This is so cool. And then right after that showing, we were all talking about it. Very hush-hush, so that the fans for the second showing didn't come in and hear what we had to say. God bless her, Scarlet Castle came up to me doing what she normally does, and she goes, no, you're buying that new shield. You're going to get it, and you're going to cosplay with it. And I go, I don't have that kind of money. What's wrong with you? She goes, oh, you'll find the money, and you're going to get the shield, and it's going to be part of your new cosplay. I'm just like, oh my God.
Okay, so I have to bring this up. Okay, so one of the guys here, Sandman, says, hello, multiverse. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Okay. When they were talking about how they were explaining time, I literally felt like I was sitting there with the writers at like the reading table going, we need to figure something out to explain time. And so like that, the way they explained it, it was just, it irked me the wrong way, because I'm like, okay, there's like, you're glossing over so many things, and I get it. You want to kind of make it so that time travel makes sense with what you're about to do, but it felt like it was really rushed, and it left way more questions than it answered for me. And that's why like it just,
Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to watch it multiple times and really discuss it more with other people, because even I was at a mess. I'm like, I'm sorry, tons of plot holes. Loki, Space Stone now being out of the cube, Freaking uh, what else was there? Thanos being snapped out of existence now. All those kinds of things. I'm like, if you want the timeline to go right the way you want it to, essentially you'd have to put it back where you found it as if nothing had happened. But that's borderline impossible at this point. So, what? And then as we talked about it more, it started making more sense. Sure, but yeah, it's a mess. It's a total mess. And then someone also brought up that the reason why they had the quantum suits was because that was their essentially their bungee cord. You know, that was how to get back to their normal timeline, because it's one rule of time that has been stated, strangely enough, by the Simpsons in terms of laws of time travel. If you step on a fly that was never meant to be stepped on, you can send ripples through time that change literally everything.
That's not
So
necessarily, that's the butterfly effect.
Yeah, that's the butterfly.
That's not really The Simpsons, but I'm glad you heard it from there.
But essentially, you do that, you're not going back to your normal timeline. You are now going to whatever future you created. So the quantum suits were explained to me as a means to bungee jump so that they would be pulled back to their normal timeline. And I'm like, wow, the science behind that is insane and crazy, but good on you. Okay, good for her. Right, that's fine.
Yeah, I think they just made up an entire new.
Yeah, no,
story
they
behind time.
retconned the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's basically like they were like, hey, we're
I
gonna.
don't think if you ever thought of time travel even matters because it doesn't exist, and we are making this now the new thing of time travel.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those where it was like, hey, we're gonna make it so that it works for us, and it just.
And at the end of the day, it's still a damn comic book movie.
Yeah.
Shit does
Yeah.
not make
It
complete
doesn't
sense.
have to be.
It's-
It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to.
It just has to work narratively.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess, because again, I can give it 10 and 10 and say it's the best movie, but it's one of those things where I say there are issues I will acknowledge, but I still say, oh my god, such a good movie.
Yeah, I'm okay tapping the I believe button for
Yeah.
random time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I look at it is by Cap going back and putting Mjolnir back and all the stones back, everything that they did during that time travel basically gets undone. So Loki doesn't actually disappear with the space stone. Thanos' army doesn't actually get dusted in 2012, because otherwise that would really ruin the entire everything that they just did. So basically, the way that they're trying to work time travel is by Cap going back and putting the stones back exactly where they were when they took them. Hit reset button, continuity continues all along, and then they just create this never-ending time loop that hits back and then continues on again.
Dormammu, I come to bargain.
So yeah.
Here's my question, because Loki's back,
Yes.
but they're doing a new Disney Plus series on them, aren't they?
The way that it was explained that I heard is a lot of these Disney Plus shows are going to be what ifs.
So like multiverse kind of thing.
Maybe. But then again, after Infinity War, I don't know. So, or after Endgame, I don't know. So
I still really hope that they take Loki from that moment and put it.
I mean, that would be
show.
that would be good.
Yeah.
That ish.
I think that would be would be fun.
I'll be honest. I'm probably not gonna watch any of those series.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't invest time into TV.
It's so for me, it's not so much
Hashtag Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's not so much the notion of investing time in TV. For me, it's more of an acknowledgement and realization. So we're getting all these streaming services, and suddenly, after a little bit, you start realizing you're now spending about what you would have spent on fucking cable TV now with streaming services, and you wonder, if only there was a way to put all these on one platform. Oh yeah, it's gone. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. And I get that they want to put
It's more from a business standpoint than a consumer standpoint. They can get more money if you're going specifically to their channel instead of getting a portion of it from cable. So it's purely from a business standpoint. It's not really too much for consideration of the consumers.
But it is what it is. I don't know. No.
I mean,
Just pull
I'm
phone
obsessed
nuts.
with Disney, so I'm definitely gonna be buying Disney. But I don't have anything else other than Netflix, so I don't.
Yeah.
I have Amazon Prime because I do Twitch. So
Oh, I have Amazon Prime because I shop on Amazon all the time because I'm a cosplayer and I forget things and I need 2-day shipping.
Oh yeah, dancer tights are a necessity, and I buy way too many of them. Oh my Jesus, it is a godsend, and I have not enough pairs.
I bought my first dancer's belt not too long ago.
Dude.
And we're
Okay.
so
that
happy.
is a cosplay
We're
necessity.
It was
so
hold on,
happy.
it gets better. It was 2 sizes too small.
Oh.
It gets better. So I just to get a little in depth, it was riding up. I tried to make it work, and I go down.
Wait, did you get one of the thong kinds or the brief kinds?
Thong kind.
Ah,
Get a brief kind. I trust me. I've tried both.
The story gets better though. Hold on.
Oh.
So I asked my
Wait
roommate,
for it.
I'm like, "Do you need a dancer's belt? Would you like one?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." I go, "Okay." So then I come back down and realize he already went back into his room. So what did I do? I put butt end of that thong on his doorknob and walked away.
Yeah, dude. I accidentally bought one of the thong kinds. Wore it one time. I'm probably gonna burn it when I get home. Because that was I now almost never not going there. But yeah. And then because I'm not
there. Don't worry.
because like most of my cosplay is like I don't wear like tight stuff. Like most of my stuff is like pants or other cordura or whatever. However, when I did the Power Ranger one, I was basically in a giant onesie. And I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no.
So I got myself one or asked around, got the briefs. I was like, oh, this is a little better. I'm like, but like, I had to ask one of my buddies that basically that's all he does is wear spandex. I'm like, up, down, tuck. What do I do here? And he's like, just shove it, just tuck it, just tuck it away. Do your best. God, that was so uncomfortable. Like, I'm not looking forward to wearing that ever again.
Can I just give like a moment of silence to all the drag queens who do that every night? Who tuck that in every night?
I have to do that in order for my Shazam cosplay to work. Because otherwise you will see how big I am. And I don't appreciate
not every night.
To quote Tank Girl, I'm gonna need a microscope and tweezers for this.
Yep. 2 Tank Girl references one night.
I wish that were the case. Then I could wear Shazam and not be super embarrassed. But when I finally
So you remember how I said I wanted to do Adult Freddy? Pretty sure I'm taking that back.
Nope, you're doing it. We're all doing it. We have to do this. I don't care if you
I don't.
Oh, come on. I've committed. I'm committed.
We've already had 2 people committed.
Dance though.
You don't have to.
Well, I need to.
Just like-
The shitty part is I think I'm gonna have to make it myself
That's fine.
because I want the texture and I haven't found.
As my buddy Zach pointed out to me, a dancer's belt, even if the bulge is there, it's better to have that single mound shape than to have your balls and testicles visibly shown.
Balls and testicles, as opposed to one or the other.
How'd you get
that's
the
what
beans
happens
above
when
the
I-
Frank?
Because that's what happens when I put on Shazam. You see everything.
Oh
Like
yeah,
a little
that's
division symbol.
no. I hear you. I just. Anyway.
Anyway, so
Endgame.
that is.
And we digress.
This is an hour and 40 minutes. Great episode. Hope you all enjoyed Endgame. Please give comments, and what have you, questions, concerns, when we post on Facebook, you are more than willing to talk to us now that we have Facebook. Thanks, Cosplay Jeremy, for that idea, by the way. And we will hope to be more social, and hopefully we'll be doing events to get more out there with the public and whatnot. Yeah, what an emotional week with Game of Thrones and Endgame. It is the end of Game of Thrones. Wait. Whatever. I'll work on the title. This is Tom Cruise with Single Dad.
Woohoo!
Cosplay Jenemy.
Yay!
Mayan Goddess. And J4.
East Love Surf Naked.
Ow.
We were all hoping for Toodles, but
Toodles.
okay. Yeah, the fuck, bro.
Yeah,
Anyway,
ruin it all for us.
right?
Set us all up. Let us all down.
Yeah.
I aim to please.
Later. Anyway, this is Geek Boots signing off. Thanks for listening to our shenanigans. Hope you enjoy Endgame and go out and see it more often. We will figure out what the fuck it is we're supposed to do with our lives next week. Huzzah!
Oh, I got planned. Ooh, girl.
Deuces.
Ooh.